we were just traveling as a pair, running and resting and running and resting. We get to one of the checkpoints, and he went inside to rest. We were probably asleep about 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, indoors, and go in and lay down on the community center floor or something. And I was so worried that he would sneak out on me that when I laid down next to him, I used his boots that he took off while he rested. I used his boots for a pillow. And I knew that he couldn't leave without his boots. My head was on his boots. And so there was no chance he was going to sneak out. And sure enough, when I woke up, he's trying to sneak his boots out from underneath my head. And he looked kind of miffed because he knew what I was doing. He knew I had a faster team. So anyway, we took off. We had 2 checkpoints left to the finish line. At the next checkpoint, I'd let him go ahead. His team went about half an hour ahead of me. I knew that I could overtake him in the first couple hours, making up that. I caught up with him at the next checkpoint. And this time, he got his cooker out that shows that he was going to melt ice and snow into water. He put straw out for his dogs. You do those things, and you know you're going to stay there a while. And I was sure he finally said, Jeff's going to win. My best chance at second place is to screw up. I need a rest. Anyway, he's got his dogs all strung out in the nature. It would be like showing up the campground, put up your tent, put out the lawn chairs, and then we went inside, laid down, and I was wearing a headset that would block out the noise of the checkpoint so that I could get my 90 minutes of sleep. And I have a timer, and my timer on my headset was set for 90 minutes. I came in, saw Lance completely undressed, sleeping on the floor, and I realized, okay, he gave up. He's not going to try and beat me anymore. He's just trying to maintain second. Anyway, so I lay down. Before my 90 minutes was out, I just woke up. I remember waking up, and there were people in the room who looked at me with, like, there was a problem. It would have been against the rules for them to wake me up, but the minute I had put my headset on, he got back up, packed up all his stuff. He was hoping that I would do exactly what I did, which was decide he's done. I could finally take my boots off and get a 90-minute rest at this checkpoint without worrying about it. Anyway, I get up. This is documented on
The Great Alone.
Oh yeah, that, and also ESPN covered the race that year, I think, and they had a camera right in my face, and I was a little miffed, as you might imagine. I realized he's gone. Anyway, I ran out, and he had been left about 50 minutes ahead of me, and by the time I got out of there, and I still kept thinking, you know, my team is definitely faster. I think I can make up 50 minutes. There's about 140 miles to go to the finish line. We had one more stop. And anyway, I never caught him. And he won the race by almost 50 minutes, which is how much he snuck out of there. Now, he had written a book that year, and he had copies of his book in Nome. And I told him I wanted a copy, and I wanted him to autograph it. And when he handed me my autographed copy, I opened it up, and it said, "You snooze, you lose." My fascination with training dogs began when I was about this tall because of seeing eye dogs. But then my parents moved our family in California from Marin County to the wilderness of Sonoma County. Right next door to where Jack London lived when he was alive. Jack London State Park is in Sonoma County, California. I was married for 26 years here in Denali. We raised 3 wonderful girls. All 3 of my girls went to the closest public school within reach. The closest school is 20 miles away. Ever since my oldest daughter was old enough to start kindergarten, one of my jobs as the daddy was to drive the kids to the school bus stop. It's a 7-mile car ride from the house to the bus stop.
Then the kids get out of the car, on the bus, ride the bus for 13 miles to school. I've been in the Yukon Quest sled dog race 9 times. Yukon Quest is another 1,000 mile sled dog race. This one goes from Fairbanks, Yukon Quest goes from Fairbanks, Alaska, follows that bold red line down into Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory. I've been in 39 1,000 mile sled dog races, and I've been in over 125 sled dog races, traveled somewhere in the neighborhood of 180,000 miles in the back of a dog sled in the last 45 years. Some of the best moments of my life, some of the worst have occurred in the back of a dog sled. But I bet you didn't know this. I bet you didn't know you can go to a sled dog race in some very unlikely corners of the world. For instance, if you know where and when to show up in the following places, I could send you to a sled dog race. Ready? Argentina, Chile, Australia, New Zealand, Finland, Norway, France, Germany, Russia, South Korea, South Africa, Scotland, Japan. Arizona's got a sled dog race. Official state sport. It actually says that in the Alaska State Charter. The Iditarod is just one of hundreds of sled dog races here in the state. It happens to be the one I'm guessing you've heard about. I'm 66 years old. I'm clearly not in the prime of my athletic life. But if you follow Dog Musher news, you know I'm still a pretty damn good sled dog racer. I just finished 28th in the 2022 Iditarod at 66. My point is I don't need to be a world-class athlete to be a world-class dog musher, because we are animal trainers more than anything. We're animal trainers, animal psychologists. We need veterinarian skills, woodsmanship skills, weather prediction skills. We need to be able to stay awake for 10 days in a row. Try that, you young punks. I just squirted out, I don't know. Yes, I'm pretty damn fit for 66. It pays to be fit. But I have been beaten in this race by teams whose musher was significantly less fit than me, because he had a better dog team with better execution during the race. I'm guessing if you've heard of the Iditarod, I'll bet you've heard there's a woman who won the race. That was big news. Crap, you'd have thought it was the Pope. We got so damn much. The woman to win the Iditarod Libby won in 1985. In 86, 87, and 88, another woman, Susan Butcher, won 3 in a row, made it 4 years in a row for the ladies. To the world, it just melted into that woman that won the Iditarod. There's 2 of them. Best-selling t-shirt in the state of Alaska in the late 80s was a t-shirt that read, "Alaska, where men are men, and women win the Iditarod." About 10% of the participants in the Iditarod race historically and statistically have been women. This year, 2022, 20% of the participants were women in this year's race. That demographic is rapidly growing. There's another woman, a very good friend of mine named Didi Johnrow. Didi's been in the Iditarod an amazing 32 years in a row. She's been second place twice. She survived breast cancer along the way. Her house burned down one of those years. She didn't miss a race for 32 years. Another woman, Allie Zirkle's been in the race for 20-some years. She's been second place a couple times. My oldest daughter, Callie, completed the team, making her one of the youngest people, male or female, to ever complete the entire event. This is an event where men and women race on a level playing field. Any disparity between men and women as athletes is of absolutely no consequence. Oh, we have our fun with verbal sparring, the battle of sexes. All right. The Iditarod race begins on the first Saturday of March each year, downtown Anchorage. Anchorage is that way. 1,100 miles this way, it's Nome, Alaska. First one there is the winner. Technically, the Iditarod is a non-stop race. I say technically because I will assure you that if you ever want to go 1,100 miles on a dog sled, you're going to want to stop along the way. The dealer times us does not stop. From the very moment we leave the start line to the moment we get to the finish line in Nome, 1,100 miles later, every single second will count the same, whether you're moving or whether you're not. There'll be more about that. On the dog food that gets flown out onto the trail, cached along the way before the race ever begins. I need to make sure you understand we're not carrying everything we need to go the whole way in our sled. That's totally unrealistic. Historically, anybody going 1,100 miles in a dog sled used to carry a rifle and a box of cartridges. They could hunt along the way to feed themselves and their teams. If they were lucky, they'd have a pocket full of gold nuggets. You could buy some food at the villages as traveled up the trail. We ship our food out for the race, begin to need bags. Volunteer pilots fly out about 2 weeks before the race starts. Other volunteers will meet the planes carrying the bags to the checkpoints. These volunteers will unload the bags, sort the bags, count the bags, cover the bags with tarps, keep the foxes and the ravens off our stuff. But the point I'm trying to make is we're not navigating our way across the state. During the race, we follow a trail. That trail each year gets laid out and marked in advance of our departure. When you're ready to run the Iditarod the first time, you have a very good chance finding your way on the first try. Navigation will be the least of your problem. These come from all over the world, volunteer their expertise. Race rules require that before the race begins, every dog must first have a complete physical exam, complete orthopedic exam, a complete blood chemistry exam, and an EKG. Have you ever given your dog an EKG? It's not easy. It takes all day to get my teacher an EKG program, and I'm not joking, 1,100 dogs had EKGs before last year's Iditarod even started. I've been in the race 30 years, they've never bothered to take my temperature. But every single dog in the race has this whole battery of exams done before the race begins. And when the dogs pass their exams, they get a microchip implanted underneath the skin of the back of their neck, the size of a grain of rice. If you went out here this morning and ran an electronic scanner over the neck of one of my dogs, it will beep out a number. That number is unique to that dog and that dog alone. There is no chance that my dog will get mixed up with your dog during the race. My competitors use, I'm not going to bore you with details of how the sleds might differ, they're all about the same. This is the real deal. But I'm not going to miss the chance to brag about the fact that I'm the one that redesigned a dog sled about 15 years ago now. I redesigned the sled, moved the musher's weight closer to the center of the ski, putting some of the cargo behind the musher as well as in front. Traditionally, musher's eyes stood on the very back. All the cargo was out in front. This design change has dramatically improved weight distribution, steering, handling, balance, also providing the musher a place to sit down as we go up the trail, which was a really good idea. Sleds weigh about 50 pounds when they're empty. When the sled's loaded up and ready to go, weighs about 150 pounds because there's about 100 pounds of stuff that you don't want to send ahead in the bags because you want it with you all the time, stuff you don't want to be without. The stuff I'm going to carry in my sled is going to be things like an axe, snowshoes, repair kit, first aid kit, sleeping bag, fire starter, dry clothes, and this device here. I can turn ice and snow into boiling water with this contraption using methanol as fuel. Methanol is an alcohol-based liquid fuel in this pot. Ice and snow in this pot. I can produce hot water with this combination in a matter of minutes. I'm always going to have 30 or 40 pounds of dog food on the sled. The single biggest, single heaviest thing I'm going to carry in my dog sled is this big lunch pail full of dog food. The single biggest thing I'm carrying, lunch pail full of dog food. And this 40 pounds of dog food means about as much to my dog team as a slice of pizza means to the boys before dinner. It's just something to hold them over till the main meal is served. This is just snacks. Where the dogs really eat is at the checkpoints. At the checkpoints, I have shipped out hundreds and hundreds of pounds of fresh beef, chicken, lamb, turkey, fish, poultry fat, commercial dry dog food. These dogs are eating machines. They will consume in excess of 10,000 calories every 24 hours during the race. 50-pound dog, your calorie counter, do the math. This is where they just go off the scale. People ask me every day, what do they eat? All you need to know is that they are carnivores. They need animal protein and they need animal fat. I don't really care where you get it. Bugs, bees, beaver. I buy beaver meat out of northern Minnesota when it's empty. 150 when it's loaded. I'm another 150, making the grand total, musher, sled, and gear, around 300 pounds. 300 pounds, starting to sound like a lot of weight if the dogs had to carry it. They don't have to carry it. They're sliding it on ice and snow on some of the highest tech plastics in the world. The coefficient of friction is very, very low. The honest to goodness truth is, any one of my dogs, any one of my competitors' dogs is capable of pulling a sled with 300-pound load all by themselves all day long. Yeah, I'll repeat that because I'm not joking, I'm not exaggerating. One dog can pull 300 pounds. They wouldn't go very fast, they could do it all day. Be like some of you with that big ass luggage on wheels you got. Science, but it gets a little confusing trying to understand how we decide how many dogs have a team for how long and why. I'll touch on several things and hopefully explain it. Now, if you were to come to the start of the Iditarod, downtown Anchorage on the first Saturday of March, which I highly recommend for the next Alaska vacation. I'm not entirely joking. Put the Iditarod start on your bucket list. I'm willing to bet you'll send me a thank you card for suggesting it, because it will become one of the most incredible things you've ever witnessed in your life. Thousands of people come from all over the world to watch start of the Iditarod. We're in downtown Anchorage. Over 1,000 dogs. There's 26 here, folks. 1,000 dogs are assembled in a 4 square block area of downtown Anchorage. Each dog wound like a Swiss watch. Each dog ready to blast off across state. You can feel the energy of the dogs that electrify the city of Anchorage for miles and miles around. Iditarod Week in Anchorage turns into a cross between Mardi Gras and running with the bulls. And if you come to the start of the Iditarod, you're going to find 14 dogs hooked in front of my sled. There will be 14 dogs hooked in front of almost every one of the 75 or so teams in the race each year. The very first day, the very first mile to participate at all. There'll be absolutely no substitutions. Unlike a soccer game or a basketball game, you keep half your team sitting on sidelines, waiting for a chance to come in case somebody sprains an ankle or gets an upset tummy. We have no bench to draw from. But wait, we kind of do. Because if you have more than 9 or 10 dogs hooked to a 300-pound sled, you're bringing your bench with you. It's the only reason you'd ever do such a thing. Every time you add a dog over 9 or 10 to your team size, you do not go faster. You just make the sled harder and harder to hang on to. To tell you the truth, if I trained 4 or 5 of my 14 dogs that started the Iditarod to ride in the sled for the first week or so, I'd do that. Because we don't need them all the first week. But our dogs have not been selected because they're good at riding in the sled. And if you tried it, you see they spend more energy trying to get out of the damn bag than they would just running in front of the sled. So what do? We hook them up to the front of the sled and off we go. Think space shuttle launch. Hanging on to this sled with 14 dogs hooked at the front of it's like hanging on to the back of a Thunderbolt. People that see this for the first time think, gosh, must take 14 dogs to pull a little sled. No, it's all you can do to hang on to this thing. And I highly recommend you do hang on, because it'll become really clear really quick that the dogs don't give a rip whether you're back there or not. Good for a chuckle, but I'm not joking. You don't want to fall off. They're not going to stop and wait for you. That's my job. That's all the musher's job. I have not won this race 4 times because I'm good at riding the sled. No, this is the easy part. All you got to do back here is keep them falling off. Lean left and right, keep the sled from crashing the trees, and then it's winding its way down the trail behind you. Once in a while, from back here, I'm going to holler out a verbal command to the dogs, left, right, speed controls, all done verbally. The meat of the dogs from right here. If you have any visions of me running alongside the sled, get over that. Are you kidding? Have me run alongside the sled and help my team makes about as much sense as having Dad run alongside the car back to the hotel. Dogs don't care whether I'm on board or not. If you ever see me running alongside the sled during the race, which you very well may, there's actually a really good reason. But it's not because the dogs need my help. It means I'm freezing my tush off. Oh, it can be cold, really, really cold. You better be in shape enough to be able to run once in a while just to warm up. And I own the finest cold weather gear in the world, and I still get cold. Here's a sample of the gear I wear right here.
Oh, okay.
This may be comical, but it's not a joke. This is the outermost layer of gear that I will wear during the most severe temperatures I will encounter. And if you don't happen to see me wearing this outfit when you see me during that Iditarod, I guarantee you the outfit is in the sled somewhere. If I'm not wearing it, it's in here. It's waiting to get put on if the temperatures were to plummet. And you know what? 25 below zero and a 20-mile-an-hour wind, I don't care if you're wearing this outfit or not. The cold still creeps in. And you better be in shape enough to run alongside the sled and be warmed up. You never know when there'll be an unexpected blizzard come right out of nowhere. You need to be in shape enough to run alongside that sled and be warmed up. Once you warm up, you get back on the sled and ride some more. Most of my new sled design has now been adopted by virtually every Iditarod Logistics musher in the world today. And you are more likely to catch a musher these days sitting down than you are to catch one running alongside the sled. We rarely get our picture in the paper like that. Doesn't paint the right image. No, to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure who that is. I assume they work for me. This race has been won by as little as 1 second separating first and second place after 1,100 miles on dog sled. Second closest race in history is under 10 minutes. My point is, we're not messing around. Yet even those of us who have every intention of winning the race, with the finest sled dogs in the world, will demand of the dogs that they rest almost exactly 50% of the time. That's 12 hours out of every 24 hours of this so-called non-stop race. I want to see my dog team sleeping or eating. It's more than you thought, isn't it? Well, I remind you, it is 12 hours a day they're running. Let that sink in, huh? 12 hours a day running at 10 miles an hour is 120 miles a day. That means 12 hours rest up and do it again tomorrow. If you can do this 10 days in a row, you're in the hunt. Now, folks, I don't let the dogs run the 12 hours in a row. They don't rest 12 hours in a row. It doesn't work like that. You're free to do it anyway. This is going to divide every 24-hour period into approximately 4 6-hour segments. We're going to let the dogs run about 6 hours at a time. When the dogs are running, I'll be riding. They run 6 hours, 10 miles an hour, or 60 miles. In 60 miles, you're going to hit one of these checkpoints where you ship your food and gear. When you get to where you ship your food and gear, you're going to demand of your dogs that they rest, however long they just ran. Because you're trying to maintain a 1-to-1 ratio of run to rest. I say allow the dogs to run because it's clearly the part they want to do. I say I demand that they rest because it's clearly not the part they want to do. Trying to get my dogs to rest after 6 hours of running is like trying to get a room full of toddlers taking naps. You better know what the hell you're doing. The whole thing can turn sour in a hurry. The dogs is to anchor them down to something they can't drag off. I'm going to hook the team down to a tree, a stump, a block of ice, a corner of the checkpoint building, something they can't run off with. Then I'm going to run and get a bale of straw for the dogs to lay down on. I shipped straw before the race began with the dog's food. You get the straw over the dog, put it on the ground under the dog. That's kind of like their blankie. They start to get the idea. Then you fill their belly full of warm food and rub their feet. After running 6 hours, they love that. If all else fails, I read them a story. It's a joke, sir. During an average 6-hour break that my dogs take, I work 4.5 of those hours caring for the dogs, myself, and the equipment. The race rules prohibit me from having any help of any kind. That's the most important sentence I'm going to tell you today, and I'm going to repeat it. During an average 6-hour break that my dogs take, I work 4.5 of those hours. That means I'm the one who's going to melt ice and snow in this bucket and produce a gallon of water per dog per day. I'm the one who's going to make 10,000 calorie meals for each one of the dogs. Race rules prohibit me from having any help of any kind. This is not a NASCAR race. There's not a team of guys in matching hats that run out and change your tires in this one. I'm the one to do those chores. I repeat, during an average 6-hour break, rules don't prohibit you from going indoors. You go up to church, school, community center, these doors, they got indoors. But if you're dying to get indoors to get comfortable, you're in the wrong event. Besides, it'll take you 5 minutes to walk up to where the indoors is. It takes 10 minutes to walk all the way back. Or put your clothes back on. You could blow 30 minutes, but 90-minute break for going indoors. Then I would demand they rest 6 hours, which I'll again work 4.5. Again, I'll sleep 90 minutes, and again, they'll be ready to go. Guess what? Then they run 6 hours, I ride 6 hours. Then they're going to rest 6 hours. I'll work 4.5. Sleep 90 minutes, they'll be ready to go again. We do this round the clock, day and night, light or dark. The reason this race is known to be so exhausting is we get very little sleep. I'm not looking for sympathy. But I'll take time to cover over 100 miles, followed by a 4-hour rest and another run. But the next day will probably be completely opposite with a 10-hour rest and a 4-hour run. At the end of any 24 or 48-hour period, you're going to find that we come out to very close to a 1-to-1 ratio of run to rest. It's the ocean up there, that's 700 miles or so. Seems like I get up in that country, I'm liable to have a dog basically raise his hand and say, "Coach, good grief, could we slow down?" I didn't sprain my ankle, I'm getting plenty of sleep. I'm a 10-mile-an-hour dog. If we go 10 miles an hour, go the whole way, Coach. Problem is, I got 11 dogs voting to go 10.5. I don't want to slow down 11 dogs want to go 10.5. The one that wants to go 10. So I'm sending the 10-mile-an-hour dog home and taking 11 dogs home, go the same speed at the same time. A couple years ago during that Iditarod, I had a female dog come into heat. There's a quick ticket home. You don't want a dog in heat in the Iditarod. You get to the next checkpoint, you fill out the paperwork, and you get sweet britches on the first plane out of town. This is a distraction you don't need. It is not by accident that we finished this race with a statistical average of 9 or 10 dogs. We are targeting the number of dogs we feel we can go the very highest speed with the very least amount of work. First, I'd have done you a horrible disservice because there are bigger heroes in this race who have never won and never will than I could ever be, several of them. You know, at 66 years old, I still have 19 years to go if I want to be the oldest guy to run the Iditarod. This race has been completed in its entirety by 85-year-old Norman Vaughn 10 times since he turned 70. Same guy went to the South Pole with Admiral Byrd when he was 18. I'm not making this up. I could talk all day about Norman Vaughn, close personal friend, a hero of mine, died 4 days after his 100th birthday a few years ago. Ran the Iditarod 10 times after his 70th birthday. He never won the race. In fact, he never once is even accused of being in a hurry. My point is not everybody in the race is in a hurry. It's kind of like the New York Marathon. It's jam-packed full. People know they're not going to win it before it ever starts. They'd love to, but it ain't in the cards for them. They just want a personal best.
So, the primary senior city dogs are ages 3 to 7. So generally dogs that stay with us will run year after year after year with our team. And
How are you? Tell me about Radar.
He's 4 years old. He's a leader, and he did his first Iditarod this year.